Her locket is small, slippery, a thin chain like sewing thread and a clasp for nimble, patient fingers. I could never hope to open any part of it now. My hands shake, I scrub. Delicate little filigree, an anatomical heart, golden copper, and blood. Inside, there's a picture of her. May, opposite a picture of us, all smiling, all happy, all alive. For a while, I thought that I had survivor's guilt. I read about it, searching for someone else's tidy words for how I felt. PTSD with one measure of empathy and another of overthinking. A vestige of these horrible acts originally. I should have, and why didn't I, at their most insidious? But I don't feel guilty, not really. I feel lonely and I feel afraid. I still feel afraid. I did blame myself for what happened at one point. I had been drinking a lot. Maybe if I hadn't been, I would have noticed something, taken the signs more seriously. But I guess that we had all been drinking. We felt safe. 3 friends camping. Normal. May was supposed to move to Philly for a job that you couldn't stop her from smiling about. She was proud, excited, finally a bona fide adult at 28. Peter and I were happy for her. We were. And our weekend was supposed to be a last hurrah. But she was leaving and our trio was going to be different. Less fun and spontaneous and more grown up. Peter's wife, Corinne, was pregnant, so that would have forced a change too. But they had been trying for a while, so May and I had gotten used to the idea of being a spiritual aunt and uncle. Peter's baby would eventually learn to make cocktails, and we would invite the little thing into our group as an apprentice. Corinne wasn't thrilled when I planned aloud, but eventually she laughed despite herself. Peter laughed more. Infectiously big and thunderous, a husky laugh that could shake the shadows from the corners of a room and make you wonder how you ever had felt crappy in the first place. Man, I miss that. I need that. He had one of those laughs the first night as May frowned indignantly and I smiled over one of my several whiskeys. He had brought a Tupperware for something that he had called Cherokee stew for dinner. May was giving him a woke earful about appropriation, and Peter had made a joke about possibly being part Cherokee. They fought like friends, a stupid, circular argument, goading but drinking all the while. Eventually Peter said that May didn't have to eat it, that she could have trail mix or a granola bar. Oh, I'm gonna eat it, because unlike your pasty butt, I am part Cherokee. Silence. I laughed first, and then Peter, and then all of us, and then, whoa, what the heck was that? Peter's eyes lost their twinkle. We had all heard it. A shriek in the darkness, piercing and desperate. I don't know, it sounded like I second-guessed myself, not wanting to ruin the mood, but May was happy to oblige. Oh, woman, what do we do? We waited a moment and listened. Nothing but the chirp of crickets and the crackle of logs. Maybe it's just kids. Peter offered as solemn and hopeful. She, whatever it was, it didn't say help, right? May was tense, searching the air with her ear the way that a deer might. Yeah, but would someone really scream, help? Or would they just scream? Well, we don't really even know if it was a someone, do we? I mean, we could call the cops, but May seemed to turn my suggestion over in her mind. No, you're right. They wouldn't do anything anyway. It did sound a lot like a woman though, didn't it? Peter and I shared a discussion and a glance. It did. It totally did. But she's all right, right? Yeah, absolutely. Maybe she got tickled or something. Corinne shrieks when she gets tickled. You see, it could be anything, it's fine. Yeah, right. Look, May, if we hear it again, well, I don't know, go look or something. But for now, I don't hear anything. Do you? I tried to be diplomatic, but it was late and dark, and we were drunk and comfortable by the fire. May nodded, shook it off, and chuckled uneasily. More bourbon for your nerves, milady. Peter shook the bottle. Yeah, thanks, Pete. We didn't hear a thing after that, just mental echoes of a scream. A short scream, a long one, painful and joyous. An hour later, we were eating s'mores, playing drinking games, and the scream had become a dozen different, vaguely plausible memories. By midnight, we were all in our tents, in our sleeping bags, separate rooms in the quiet cacophony of an uncertain wilderness. A rustle of leaves, the groan of a maple tree, the thrum of my drunken pulse, footsteps, the synthetic squeak of my sleeping bag, a cleared throat, a snore, a distant scream, another, a bad dream of fearful nothing, and then sleep. The next day came cool and gray, with Peter humming along to a Bluetooth speaker and May clutching a cup of coffee, pretty and bundled and drawn. How'd you sleep? I croaked at her. Oh, good, just hungover. She smiled meekly and eclipsed her face behind her mug. Yeah, I'm with you, I commiserated. Hair the dog? May declined, rubbed sleep from her heavy eyes. Peter, annoyingly chipper, lifted a bottle and eyed it flirtatiously against the low morning light. Mac, I'll join you, Jack. A little Irish coffee, Kentucky. Sounds like a grand way to start the day. Peter must have slept well. He had the inevitable habit of turning a gutful of liquor into a head full of energy. He had been that way at 25 and at 30. He hadn't changed. He was a little just rounder around the belly and decidedly more bearded. May and I soaked miserably in contrast, slouching and moaning over our headaches as Peter merrily sang bluegrass in a terrible falsetto. He was cooking sausage into scrambled eggs in a cast iron skillet. Being a dad for us misanthropic kids, he had always been that too. Our gregarious anchor, warm and happy. May was conscientious and a bit of a downer, though I say that as lovingly as I can. Without her, Peter and I would have devolved into sloppy, self-indulgent men long ago. Insufferable and perhaps more free but less happy. It was May that badgered Peter into first talking to Corinne, as he pined pitifully across a crowded bar. She was loving in a brutal sort of way, and she wasn't shy about being blunt. I gotta piss. You lousy weirdos keep your eyes on the fire, she said, standing. Maybelline, I'm a married man, Peter answered, full of false indignation. I've seen more women peeing than I could ever need, or want. She chuckled and turned to me, narrowing her eyes, accusatory. Don't shame me, May. You're better than that, I smirked. She seethed, and then we laughed and she disappeared, grumbling theatrically. A moment later, I filled Peter's melodic calm with what seemed like a neurosis. Hey, Peter, this is gonna sound crazy, but after we turned in last night, I heard it too, man, he said, turning the sausages. I called the ranger station before you and May woke up. No one's missing, but they said to keep an eye out. He was staring then, no longer smiling, pensive. It made me feel oddly settled, and then I thought, you're gonna be a good dad, Peter. Yep, I know. He sipped at his cup. I've been watching Bluey, this Australian cartoon about dogs. I've been taking notes. He never showed a hint of trepidation about becoming a father. No doubts. He had things figured out. And now I hoped that we could give May some peace of mind when she got back. I was sure that she had heard the screams too. Her face said as much. But when she had returned to camp, she looked frantic. She tore open our bag of food and started rummaging. "Where are the marshmallows?" "A snack attack, I like it." "No, Peter, where are they? Did one of you finish them last night?" I shrugged and Peter shook his head. May looked pale. "What is it?" I asked. "What's wrong?" "Well, you have to come see." She grabbed my arm and I followed and stumbled through brush and stopped at a nearby clearing. I saw what she was raving about. Marshmallows scattered across the ground, crawling with ants. Gross, I guessed, but not worth the worry. There was something else, the screams maybe, but something more too. "I think they're ours," May whispered. "Okay, so we've got a raccoon problem. We'll be more careful, it's not a big..." "Jack, they're arranged. I mean, am I crazy?" I didn't get that at first, but when she said it, I saw it. They were laid out like stick fingers, kind of. Maybe not. "Hey, if this is about those screams last night, Peter called the ranger station. They said that nobody's gone missing. No one has reported anything. It was probably just some kids messing around. So why are you so..." "There are 3 stick figures. 3 people like us. And it's not just the screams, okay? Well, maybe it is, but now this." "May, it's nothing. They look a little like people, but I think you're seeing shapes in the clouds. There's probably little raccoon teeth marks on them or something. Look." I grabbed a stick from the ground, skewered one of these swarming white globs and lifted it. And the rest lifted with it. One of the people. The stick figures sagged, the marshmallows settled, and I saw a string running through them. Ruddy red twine. An armature. "Jack, what the heck?" I dropped it. "I don't know. Someone did that, made these. Came into our camp last night and why? What does it mean?" "I don't know, nothing. Peter said that hikers come through this area occasionally. Maybe one of them decided to play a prank, I don't know." As unsettled as we might have been, Peter was nonplussed by the news. He said that somebody might have pilfered our camp, that it was odd but not unheard of, and that they were gone now. Obnoxious, but somebody's harmless fun. After Blair Witch, everybody became an amateur horror set designer. They spooked you, mission accomplished. But if it makes you feel any better, May, the greatest threats to you out here aren't people. They're falls, dehydration, Lyme disease. Heck, you're actually a lot more likely to be killed at home than you are out in the woods." May nodded thinly. I made her a stiff coffee and she accepted my offer this time. We ate and planned our day. Enough distraction to catch a laugh or two. And then we packed our bags and doused the fire. May conceded that she might have been overreacting. The stress of moving, she had confessed. The uncertainty of a new life in a new place was all beginning to boil over. We did our best to reassure, said nice things and made promises. By the end of the day, she was smiling and teary and Peter had moved our discussion to a quarry for the day. Peter's uncle had owned the land where we had set up camp, 100 or so acres of low mountain wilderness, with a working tree farm at its eastern edge. Pretty rugged country that Peter had been roaming since he was a kid. And we'd been before to camp, but never to a place that he mysteriously called Xanadu. It was a special place, a hot spring, technically sitting on national park land, but close enough to feel like ours. An autumn oasis in the woods, hard to find, not on any maps. He made it sound like a slice of bliss, and May and I were primed to think with anything but misplaced fear. Before long, we were excited. We had a purpose and adventure, and an hour later we found ourselves at the base of a sloping climb. one overgrown switchback slithering upward through skinny pines. We were so enthralled by everything, the energy, the wilds that dripped with austere beauty, that we almost missed him sitting there amongst the shrubs. A boy who blended into the gray and brown, still dressed in a uniform that might have belonged to a Boy Scout troop. Something normal enough to forgive the oddity of his presence. He was young, maybe 10 or 12 years old. I've never been great at guessing ages. And he was ratty, dusted in dirt, alone and almost smiling. And Peter became immediately paternal. He bombarded the kid with questions. Was he okay? How did he get there? Did he need help? Food, water? Where were his parents? The boy was strange, ragged and aloof, answering Peter's questions only exactly as they were asked. He was okay. He walked there. He didn't need help, or food or water. His father was up in the mountain. His mother was in the ground. And he said it just like that. Mama's in the ground. It was unsettlingly matter-of-fact coming from a child. No sorrow or happy pretense about heaven. Flat. Peter brushed it off and kept interrogating. Do you want to come with us? No. Why'd your old man leave you here? To talk to the park ranger. And the ranger's up the mountain. Yes. Maybe it's about the scream. May cut in. Crap, I thought we had gotten past that. And I didn't want to. Yes. The boy lifted a backpack from his feet and clutched it to his chest. So you heard it too. Do you know what happened? May seemed more curious than overwrought. A small improvement. The boy opened his mouth and paused. I have charms. Do you want to buy one? Unexpected. Charms. May screwed up her face, confused. She was certainly not alone in that, but I didn't want more worry. So I tried to steal back some of Peter's morning positivity. Sure, I responded. How much? The boy smiled. $5. I had the cash, so why not? Suddenly, he seemed excited and talkative. The charms were really talismans, he explained. They were magic. He made them to protect himself from bad things. Sometimes they worked, and now he made them for everyone. Everyone deserved protection. His mama taught him how to make them, but she didn't have one when she... He stopped, snatched away my money and reached into his bag. Charms, talismans, a rodent skull, a couple of ribs and a few glittery plastic beads, all joined together with a shabby little macrame lanyard made of ruddy and red twine. Hey kid, I started. I don't mean to. I've got to go, he interrupted. Not supposed to talk to strangers, I forgot. Don't tell my daddy, okay? Peter was frowning, eyeing the kid, concerned. May still looked confused. Yeah, sure thing, I said uneasy. But you're sure that you're all right? His nose had started running. He wiped it with his hand, painting dirt across his face. Yes, I have merit badges, always prepared, always okay. Don't tell though if you see him. I'll get in trouble. He smiled awkwardly, stood and shouldered his backpack, and he started walking away. We let him go, even as a mental argument raged on Peter's face, and I kicked myself for not asking about the marshmallow effigies. If only afterward that I mentioned the color of the twine, the similarity. May swallowed whatever nascent misgivings she had, turned to resolve instead. I forget it, weird kid, I don't know. Can we just go to this Xanadu place? Peter nodded grimly. He led the way up the mountain into a pool nestled in a bowl of bald rock and gold-leafed birches. The water steamed ghostly and inviting, and all of the morning seemed soothed away by the warmth of it. We sat in silence for a while. May close to me as Peter reclined opposite of us. "It's funny," he said finally. What is?" I asked. Nothing. Just wonder why you two never. I looked at May, who caught my eye and flicked her vision back to Peter. "Ah, you're shipping us," she asked, blushing despite her sarcasm. "You look good together is all." "Oh, Peter's congratulating himself for picking attractive friends," I quipped. "Well, I didn't hang out with you two because you're nice." May splashed Peter and he laughed, ducked beneath the water. May shrieked as he got one of her feet and kicked at Peter, chirped for help and laughed. I grabbed her to keep her from going under, felt the pretty warmth of her. Gosh dang it, Peter. When he surfaced, he was laughing more, and then he stopped. "Oh, hi." May and I turned around and saw a pair of boots, drab khaki trousers, and a green jacket embroidered with a badge. "Sorry, I didn't mean to bother you." His jacket said R. Brooks across the chest. The park ranger that the boy's father was talking with, I guessed. He was youngish and clean-shaven, a pleasant smile playing across his face. "Something wrong, officer? Because look, I've been coming to this spring since I was a kid and I've never—" "Oh, no, you're fine." He stared down at Peter and loomed above us. "I'm looking for someone. A Boy Scout because we saw him not too long ago." "A Boy Scout, maybe." Peter rose from the water, grabbed a towel, waved May and I down as we began to rise with him. "I think I can show you where we saw him from the overlook," Peter offered. The ranger's smile never wavered. His expression didn't change. He just said, "Okay." A moment later, May leaned toward me and whispered, "I didn't hear that guy walk up. Maybe he's a ghost." "You think they would let him retire at least?" "Unfinished business. You can't ask for better job security." May chuckled and then after a while said, "Hey, what Peter said. He's an idiot, a hopeless romantic. He owns a copy of The Notebook in hardback. She grinned. "Oh, did he borrow it from you?" "I would never give my copy away." May was close, very close, brown eyes and wet hair. "He is an idiot." "Uh-huh." Whatever I might have wanted in that moment, it didn't happen. Peter came back. May pulled her legs off of mine and gave Peter a "don't start" kind of look. Peter shrugged. "So I asked him about the screams last night, and he said that it was foxes." "Foxes?" May asked. "Yep. Apparently they scream like women." Google seemed to agree. Super weird, I know, but yeah. I watched May's brow unknit. "Oh, weird, okay. And the kid?" "I don't know. The ranger didn't talk to anyone on the way up. No dad. But he is with a search and rescue apparently, and they don't have a missing kid on their radar. Pretty sure they would." Peter chuckled. "Guy told me some crazy stories about the job though." Peter promised to regale us around the campfire later on, and an hour or two later we were on our way back to camp, feeling lighter, singing, joking, laughing as the sun sunk low and cast our final mile in long shadows. May was the first to see camp. "Oh, what the heck?" All of our things, coolers, bags and boxes, pans and plastic cups, everything but the tents were all arranged in a circle around a gray-brown lump on the ground. I shined a flashlight as May reached down for the lump, and then she yelped, "Ugh, bugs!" It was a dead raccoon, an old, deflated mass of matted fur, hollow eye sockets, a muzzle clean to the bone. If this was that weird kid, May grumbled. She was livid, seething, tearing around our camp and searching. And we checked for missing things. Nothing gone as best as we could tell. A bit of strangeness made somehow expected weight against everything else. Once the raccoon was buried and out of sight, May began drinking in earnest. Peter lit up a joint and I cooked hot dogs on skewers as a shared silence began to fall. We fought against the unease. I tried to joke about it. But then as night settled, Peter made good on his promise to tell us about the ranger's stories. He was clearly having fun with it, adding little embellishments, pausing dramatically. A doormat at the edge of a cliff with a single pair of empty boots. An abandoned school bus where every seat was covered in what looked like human bite marks. A missing couple's camera showing their last few days alive. Okay, that one seems tragic, but creepy. May was getting into the stories. It wasn't creepy until Ranger Brooks started noticing something in the photos. 2 eyes in the distance, a figure among the trees. There were 4 days of pictures in that camera, and in almost every one, a mountain lion hiding in the background. They didn't notice. The search and rescue never found the bodies. Yeah, well, screw that, May shouted. Nope, nope, nope. Peter turned in early in the night and told us to look through our photos just in case. He smirked and May threw something, and then we were alone, drinking, playing truth or dare and feeling the conspiratorial pull of a possibly bad decision. Jack, it's your turn. Truth. Oh, you wimp. Okay, let's see. Earlier today when Peter said, well, about us, what was your first thought? I watched her watching me close. Her truth was a dare, wasn't it? I leaned into her and made a possibly bad decision, one that I could blame on the whiskey, one that she had reciprocated. And then for a moment, we weren't friends. We were whispering in my tent, taking off clothes and trying and failing to be as quiet as we erased the day with something that felt inevitable. Afterwards, we lay, cramped enough to still feel intimate, a tangle of limbs soft and affectionate. I kissed along her chest and stopped at the locket that I had given her for Christmas years before. Something delicate that looked something brutalistic from a distance. Like her. The sound of our breathing, the wind outside the tent, the crickets, the snap of a twig, an uneasy silence and a dozen little thoughts to fill it. Now the stories were getting to me, I reckoned, crowding out the notion that I had just gotten with a friend was something less complicated, a touch of fear growing. But we were alone, safe, and as I reached for the tent zipper, May reached for me and asked what I was doing. No, it's nothing, just paranoid. I just need to. I unzipped the door. Opening the flap, I gasped. May screamed and scrambled for the fabric to cover herself. I backpedaled away from the door. The boy stared. Oh, what the heck? What do you— get out of our camp! He was inches away from the tent, crouched and leering, unmoving, silent. Kid, get lost, Jesus. His eyes moved from me to May. He inhaled a long breath and spoke. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. I heard the zipper of Peter's tent. May was shouting, swearing. I was paralyzed, watching the boy's lips wordlessly mouth. If I should die before I wake, I pray the— He stopped. Eyes went wide and he screamed. Peter came running. The boy was faster as he darted off into the woods. May shook, hugged her arms around me as I tried to grasp for one normal thought. Oh, okay. Peter, flashlight in hand, shielding his eyes from 2 naked friends. Try not to look, but guys, what the heck was that thing? I searched for clothes in the shadows, reliving the moment of the boy's scream. Not scared or angry, alarming, shrill, and feral shriek. The kid, I stammered. He was right outside my tent. That was the kid? The Boy Scout? Peter barked, incredulous. I thought that it was an animal. He ran away on all fours, Jesus. I was glad that I hadn't seen that, but the image still crept into my mind. The boy ambling away, wild limbs bent in the wrong places. Peter searched the woods attentively as I tried to convince May and myself that the boy was harmless. He was just a kid. Weird, but not threatening. Peter lent me his knife after we had settled down. A security blanket I wondered if I could ever bring myself to actually use. He said that he would call the ranger station again in the morning. May slept with me in my one-person tent. Uncomfortable, lovely, warm, whimpering in her sleep as I tried to slow my thoughts. Eventually, I must have slowed them enough to drift off. I awoke in the morning alone in my tent. Peter was talking to someone in an officious tone outside. Well, take your time then, I guess. Thanks. A pause. Unbelievable. When I joined them, May half smiled at me. Better than avoiding eye contact. Something that I had fretted over on top of everything else. What's going on? I asked groggily. Peter huffed and unscrewed the cap of a fresh bottle of whiskey. Bottle shop wanted 500 extra to come out here on short notice. 500? What the heck is happening to the world? The auto shop. May sighed. The truck won't start. Probably that kid. I was wanting to get out of Dodge, but... Yeah, what about the kid? The ranger station. They didn't pick up, Peter responded, abandoning the pretense of boozy coffee. He pulled straight from the bottle and May beckoned for him to share. Anyway, nothing weird this morning apart from the truck. All good, I guess. And Peter, about last night. His scowl thawed into a mischievous grin. Last night? Oh, for Pete's sake, May cut in, shaking off the chill of the liquor. He obviously knows that we weren't having a naked hang jack. We screwed. Peter and I. I'm going to choose not to feel weird about it. I'm gonna drink. And Jack, we're not gonna do it again. Unless we do, in which case, you aren't gonna let me feel weird about it, either of you. Modern women, Peter answered, amused. I dig it. But Jack, and I say this as a friend, you get around a ton, and I'm shaming you. Oh, screw off, I laughed. Shame, shame. I turned to May, feeling more okay. You're not going to defend me. No, I agree with Peter. Shame. It didn't get weird, it got easy, and somehow the day became normal. We played cards, we drank, we made up stories about the boy. Clearly he had been raised by wolves, stolen from some Boy Scout troop and left to learn wolf culture and woodland handicrafts. May suggested that the glittery plastic beads on his charm talisman thing were a part of an even greater mystery. You know, Lisa Frank went missing in these woods a while back. No one found her. They assumed it was a photogenic mountain lion, but that mountain lion lawyered up, maintained his innocence, never had enough to charge him. She spoke with absolute conviction. Peter tried to look somber. I smiled. Lisa Frank, the Unicorn Notebook Company. She was more than her products, Jack. May said, deadpan, flirting with condescension. Peter drizzled a bit of bourbon on the ground. Thug Heaven is always so greedy. Lisa Frank. Thug Heaven. Man, we lost it. We laughed more and more, cackling maniac laughter that felt so easy. May kissed me as Peter left us for a moment, giddy and effortless, lips like a memory. And then she looked at me as if searching for an exit door in my mind, quizzical and earnest. I gave her my contented vacancy in return. Afterwards, we didn't talk about her leaving. Didn't talk about feelings, we reveled. Made all of our misgivings into something ephemeral and endlessly unimportant. The day dragged comfortably. The branches sagged overhead, drowsy and nearly bare, leaves falling, tickling disjointed seconds away. At one point, Peter had called Corinne. We howled at her, to her, a pack of drunken idiots waiting for the normal world outside of our camp to return. And Peter didn't tell her much. She seemed happy. And then dusk fell, and 100 shadows reached from distant trees. That evening, we tried to make up ghost stories around the campfire, doubling down on our effort to control our smothered unease. The fear of the stories was ours, something narrative and expected, grim and grisly, but still lighter than the unknowable dark mustering beyond the firelight. I got up to pee once, staggered out, clumsy and babbling to myself. I must have put down my cup, though I don't remember. I remember the sloshing jerk of the trees around me. I remember thinking of my 2 friends. I drank more and started to feel wrong. My body hummed, drooping and sickly receding into the gravity of my chair. "Jack, you okay?" No, yeah. I've just got to lie down for a bit." I was in my tent, fumbling with the zipper, cold, shivering and sinking into the ground. I heard laughter, Peter's warm bellow, and then nothing. A cold tent painted in silence. The firelight was gone and my sleeping bag was hungry, digesting me as a mountain lion's prowled outside, and the tent breathed a languorous rhythm. "Jack, is that you?" Whispered distant phantom words. A dream, a shriek, a muffled sound. The hush of leaves. "Somebody, please." The groan of heavy, naked limbs. An echoed laugh. A scream, guttural and wet. A quickened pulse. Thumping, pounding. The rhythmic slap of flesh. Another scream. Another. The whine of a zipper. Nothing. And then everything again and again, until the sounds became meaningless. I woke the next morning to barbaric light and a splitting headache. And silence. I waited, burying my dream from the night before, or at least trying to. It was foxes again, I told myself. Drunken, screaming fox dreams. That's all. I went to May's tent first and called her name, unzipped her door. Empty. She wasn't there. She had gone for a hike, gone for kindling, gone to breathe the mountain air, the scent of pine and moss. She'd be right back. When Peter didn't answer either, I felt relieved. It meant that they were together. I had been foolish, drunk and anxious, nothing more. I unzipped Peter's tent. I hadn't noticed his boots sitting side by side, tucked underneath his rainfly, but I felt the vertigo, an illusory cliff. I had fooled myself into seeing a doormat and I looked no further. Peter! My voice carried, echoed off the tree trunks and died in a whimper. Peter was there, pale skin, swimming in blood. Too much. His belly was ragged, a dozen clotted punctures, 100 too many. His eyes were open, staring, as if lost in a thought that I couldn't fathom. The screams had been real. Not foxes, a friend dying badly as I spun drunkenly into sleep. And that meant May. She wasn't there. Hers was the first voice I remembered as the silence in the night became something horrific. "Jack, is that you?" I felt sick. Where was she? Was she afraid, dead, or worse? I had no way to know. Only a multitude of half-certainties. Vague images of anguish hidden amidst the voyeuristic pines. It took hours to hike to the nearest ranger station. Quiet time to think ruefully and see her face in every distant clearing. A ranger named Jansen told me that they hadn't received a call from Peter. Not after the first night and not after the second. I told her about the kid, about Ranger Brooks and every detail that I could remember. Brooks? There is no Brooks that works in the park. I tried to remember his face, but I couldn't. It blended indistinctly with something plausible but far from firm. Even now, I search my memory for that face, but nothing. The following day, I was told that the likely motivation for Peter's death was money. His wallet was missing and so was mine. I'll admit it is strange that that's all they took. Jansen's boss said those words so easily. It was Jansen who recognized the pain in my eyes and returned it with sympathy. That's all they took. May was still missing, a hole in me that grew with each passing day. And I was the one who told Corinne about Peter. I told her over the phone and listened to her break after the disbelief bled out of her. She loved Peter and Peter was going to be a good dad, a perfect dad. I wanted to see that so badly. But as Corinne wept and asked her questions, all I could tell her was that I don't know. Why would they kill him? I don't know. Did he make someone mad? I don't know. Who did it? I don't know. Why did they let you go? That question bothered me for a long time. Why did they let me go? I wasn't special, I wasn't pure, I was chosen. After describing my recollection of that night to the Rangers, they sent me to the hospital for a drug screening. By then, my blood alcohol was 0. I tested positive for cannabis as I knew that I would, but I had also tested positive for ketamine. I had wandered into the woods alone. I must have put down my cup to pee, and then I felt wrong. It meant that somebody was there inches from me, silent, hiding, waiting, and predatory, and I had felt safe. A month later, Corinne gave birth to a healthy baby girl, a fatherless girl with Peter's easy smile. By then, my persistent calls to the ranger station were met with faltering patience and thin courtesy. They were still looking. May's parents would be their first call, but I would be their second. But I never got that call. It's been 14 months. This Christmas, like my last one, fell hollow without them. I visited Corinne and Vivian a few days ago. I gave Viv a plushie, the dad from Bluey. I didn't know that it would make Corinne cry, but Viv chewed on its nose and for a moment, everything felt normal. And then last night, I had a moment of hope. There was a plain envelope in my mailbox with Jack written in big black letters across the front. A part of me saw May's handwriting there. Jack. My stomach bounded. I opened it quickly, savagely, and found 2 things inside: a thumb drive and a locket. The thumb drive was filled with files, videos, and as I played the first, I was transported. Oh, come on, you're gonna love it. It's called Cherokee Stew. Oh, so it's a Cherokee recipe. It could be. I mean, it's got venison and corn. Maize, I guess. What the heck, Pete? You can't just call something Cherokee Stew because it has deer meat and corn in it. Hey, what's wrong with that? It's a good name. And it's delicious. May, Peter, and me from a distance. There were dozens of videos like it. The ghostly grayscale of night vision, the clarity of day through a telephotic lens. 2 nights of oblivious us in the myopic comfort of our campfire's light. We were safe. We always were wrong. I watched them all one by one. At night as we slept, they would creep out from the woods and sit around the ashes of our fire. They moved our things, drank our water, ate our food, and listened to us sleep. They never spoke. The boy and the cameraman, but they worked with chilling, silent purpose. And then I got to the video of that night. May didn't scream at first. She thought they were me, and why wouldn't she? They came with duct taped and coarse rope, left her to wait as they made their way to Peter. I still can't answer Corinne's questions. I don't know why they killed him. I wish that I could unknow how. That video had ended with me still as a corpse, whimpering quietly in some hallucinatory nightmare. I might have screamed if I knew what they had done to me before they came to me. They watched me as her distant muffled screams mingled with their breaths. And I don't know why. I don't know where they took her and what they did after. I see her constantly because I need to hope, but I don't know if she's alive or dead. I know nothing, or I knew nothing. As I waited for the police to come for the thumb drive, as I began writing this, hoping that someone might offer some reason for any of it, as I ironically began to clean her locket to purge something horrible from something sweet, I looked at that envelope again. In my foolish hope, I had seen May's hand in ambiguity. She knew my address, it made sense. And then the theft of my wallets made sense. They didn't want money, they wanted me, and I don't know why.